Hey guys, what's going on? It's been a little while. Afton had gotten COVID. I got sick. I don't know what it was. I didn't go to the doctor for that, but I just took medicine or whatever. But we were both sick for a while, and I think Shadow caught it too because she didn't feel too good. So, kind of been in the doldrums and the dumps, what have you. My phone screen got cracked, so I got a little running through that bad boy. Doesn't look too cool. Sorry, did I disturb your ears with that whistle? I apologize. So, um, this is going to be probably a controversial take. I mean, well, I don't know if it'll be controversial. There's not a whole lot of people watching this shit, yeah, I would imagine. Maybe someday. But, um, I put this movie in movies I would recommend because it is the sequel to the two other movies that I had already put in there. I had Unbreakable in there, I had Split in there because I love both of those films. And the third film I'm putting in there is Glass, which I understand might not have been the most popular film. It certainly wasn't as popular as the other two. I know that a lot of people hated it. So, the reason that I recommend it is because this is the ending of those movies. So, if you like those movies, which I did like both of them, you deserve to have an ending. Even if you don't like the closure of something, you still deserve the closure. Remember that. Even if you don't like how a relationship ended, you still deserve the closure at the end of it. Even if you don't like how you had to leave one job, you still should close it off. Like everything deserves its closing in. So, Unbreakable for me was a plain out 10 out of 10. I love that movie. It's so good. It's still good to this day. Um, I think the worst parts of that movie are good, and the best parts of it are remarkable. So then it went down to Split. Split is a great film. It's not quite Unbreakable, but it was still a great film. McAvoy was incredible in that thing, and it's one of those movies that you don't know is a sequel until the very end, and then you're like, oh shit, what are they gonna do to wrap it up? Ipso facto, they found themselves at Glass. Now, once again, color is one of the most important parts of this movie. Everyone has their own color scheme kind of a thing going on. They have their own colors that make them, that you can tell when they're being weakened, colors that you can tell when they're at their most powerful. I mean, just like the comic book motif of this movie without being stemmed from a comic book is awesome. It it was impressive to me how without the overdone sense of comic book movies, the bombastic craziness that goes on every which way, and this is just so contained that, for one thing, I think it's quite realistic, which is the reason why I liked it as an overall matter. Isn't because I thought it was the best film. If I was looking at, like, I think Unbreakable is a standalone film. You could watch that movie, it could stand alone on its own. Split, a standalone film. You could have that movie, it could be unrelated to Unbreakable. You could take out the last part so that nobody even knows anything about it, and it would still be a good film. This one, it can only be attached to the other two. So, you couldn't just open this movie up, somehow introduce all these characters and get the formation and things moving without what has come in the past. So, as an overall matter, this movie needs the other two. The other two don't need it. But it is the direct sequel to those films. And like I said, I thought they did it realistically enough that I wasn't mad at it. And I know that a lot of people did get upset with it, but I felt like it carried along with the motif of those movies. Like, what if there were superheroes, but it was in a world like ours, where the fact that someone could become a superhero isn't not only not really believed, but not known even to the superhero themselves, who's like, this couldn't really be happening, until they realize eventually, like, it is really happening. And it's almost overwhelming emotionally, physically, morally, and spiritually. So, for me, like, Unbreakable standalone is just like a 10 out of 10. Split standalone, 9 out of 10. This movie, if it tried to stand on its own, it'd be like a 2. But because it works in conjunction with the other films, I mean, this is probably the hardest movie that I've had to rate, because I would lay it anywhere between a 6 to an 8. For me personally, I think at this exact moment I'm going to call it a 7, because I'll just meet my own self in the middle. There's a lot of aspects of this movie that I enjoyed, and a lot of aspects that I didn't. It's hard to really get into the weeds on this film without becoming spoiler heavy. So if you're not interested in spoilers, remember that this movie deals with color. It deals with the realism inside of this world that is very similar to ours. I mean, maybe our world, but obviously we don't really have superheroes. Oh, we may. For me, I thought that the realistic sense of the film was the strongest part. And I don't understand why people can't see it that way. So, given, it's hard for me to go dipping into that. So, for the non-spoiler people, I'm going to give this movie a 7. And I hope that you have a wonderful night. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Into the spoiler section. Now, if the government, ultimately the military, what have you, found out that there were superheroes and that they were starting to have battles across the street, I think that there's a high likelihood that they would snatch them up if possible, lock them up if possible, and ultimately either diminish their power or execute them. And the fact that this movie went, the savage way, I would say you could call it the savage way, because it is quite brutal. And they just execute them as an overall matter. And knowing like Bruce Willis was the tough one for me. David Dunn. I didn't want to see him done like that. Yeah, I tried to come with the humor. If it wasn't funny, you'd be okay. And so, to see this awesome character who I loved, and is one of my favorite movies, the lore that established him as a character, just unceremoniously drowned in a tiny puddle, was disturbing for me. But not enough to make me dislike this movie, because just because something happens that I don't like in a movie, things happen that I don't like in the real world. So I can't be running around here making a big deal because something happened in a movie that I didn't like that much. That's silly. We gotta get over the silly part of stuff in this world, because I think that a lot of us are just willing to throw something away because you don't like a small piece of it. And to me, that's just folly. I think that there were a lot of things I wish this movie had done that it didn't do. That's why it slides down the edge of that 6. But it also, in my view, accomplished an ending to, well, it wasn't even an ending, but an ambiguous ending where you can fill in the blanks on what's going to happen, and you should be. By the time that movie ends, you're like, oh, okay, well, here is what's going to be going down. If you didn't get that out of the movie, then I guess it was just kind of wasted on you. And so, knowing that they just killed the dude so rudely in this puddle almost made me not like it. I was like, this is close. But that's the world. And so I love how they brought the stark realism to it, which that pushed it up to that 8. The lines being crossed in between each other gave it the 7 that I ended up putting it out there. I mean, this was another one that shows that Shyamalan is a art student. His use of color, shadows, just like everything blended together. The psychotic doctor, I can't remember her name right now as an actress. Sarah Paulson? I think it's Sarah Paulson. She's awesome in this thing. She's just cold and vicious and very appropriate for the role that they had her playing, I thought. So I give this movie a 7. I am putting it in my movies I recommend. If it was a standalone film, it would not be in the movies I recommend. But because it's attached to these 2 other films that I thought were tiers above regular films in their own way, I'm going to have to throw it in my movies that I recommend. Check it out, Glass. I believe it was 2019. So I hope you guys have a good night and enjoy yourselves. Don't forget to not let the bedbugs bite.